It's a beautiful Thursday here in Seoul. Hello and welcome to Business Daily. I'm Kim Young-gil. Let's first get started with a look at today's highlights. A Seoul court has ordered Korean automaker Kia to pay its workers hundreds of millions of dollars in backlogged wages after ruling that bonus pay should be part of ordinary wages. China will loosen restrictions on foreign investments in 12 industry sectors by next month to revive falling interest among overseas investors. Don't go away and stay tuned for more stories. We begin with our top story. We have a verdict on a hard-fought legal battle over wages. Earlier today, a Seoul court handed a partial victory to workers of Kia Motors, ruling that fixed bonuses should be included as part of ordinary pay. Eunice Kim has more on this potentially watershed ruling.
A closely watched court case involving Kia Motors wraps in favor of labor. A Seoul Central District Court judge ruled on Thursday that regular bonuses should be considered part of a worker's ordinary pay. It marks a partial victory for the more than 27,000 union members who had sued their employers 6 years ago. They demanded nearly $970 million in unpaid wages over the 3 years prior, under the premise that regular bonuses, meal allowances, and daily expenses should be considered a part of their base pay. The judge granted more than a third of that, ordering Kia Motors to retroactively pay up $374 million to the plaintiffs, leaving room for the two parties to negotiate a payment arrangement. The judge dismissed Kia's argument the claim's multi-billion-dollar burden would pose a risk to the company and the domestic economy at large, noting Kia's robust net profits since 2008. The court also affirmed the workers were exercising their rights under the Labor Standards Act. The verdict comes at a time when Korean automakers are facing heat from a Chinese boycott and challenging sales in the U.S. market. Kia Motors' net income is projected to continue on a downward trend, estimated at 2.17 trillion won this year. That's about $1.9 billion. That's more than 40% fall from just 5 years earlier. Kia Motors has already said it will appeal the decision as it defends itself from another labor dispute lawsuit. The ruling is not the first time a court has judged in favor of including fixed bonuses in ordinary pay, but given the high-profile nature of the case, many anticipate it could have implications for similar lawsuits currently under review. Eunice Kim, Business Daily.
On the monetary policy side of things, no major surprises from the Bank of Korea this morning. The central bank held the country's benchmark interest rate steady at a record low of 1.25%. The Bank of Korea may have taken rising geopolitical tensions into account when reaching its decision. Kim Taewan reports.
The Bank of Korea has frozen its benchmark interest rate for the 14th consecutive month, holding it at a record low of 1.25%. The central bank hinted that the freeze was due to geopolitical risks, triggered by the heightened tensions on the peninsula following a wave of North Korean provocations.
In July, we estimated the local economy would grow 2.8% this year. Since then, we've noticed the emergence of several factors that may fuel or inhibit growth. Positive changes include the stronger recovery momentum of the global economy, while on the flip side, geopolitical risks stemming from North Korea and China's retaliation over the deployment of THAAD are becoming palpable as well.
BOK Governor Lee Ju-yeol had previously stated that he was monitoring the situation very carefully, since the threats are not regarded as transitory. Consumer sentiment also dipped in August after rising for the previous 6 months in a row. Global rating agency Moody's projected this week that the Bank of Korea would likely wait until next year before it hikes the rate. An assessment of government measures to curb speculation in the housing market and its impact on the $1.2 trillion household debt is set to play a key role in determining the timing of the next rate hike. Further reinforcing a rate freeze is the dovish tone from the U.S. Federal Reserve regarding the timeline of its rate hikes. The BOK had previously projected that it would be difficult for the Korean economy to grow in the 3% range this year, even if the execution of the government's $9.8 billion supplementary budget bill for job creation is taken into account. This is in contrast to the rosy projections made by the central bank just last month, when it said the local economy is on the recovery path thanks to gradual improvements in domestic consumption, rising exports, and the global economic recovery. The Bank of Korea will release its provisional estimates of second quarter gross national income and gross domestic product on Friday. Kim Taewan, Business Daily.
Korea's industrial output rose 1.2% in July, ending a 3-month losing streak. The nation's statistics agency says most production indices showed gains compared to the previous month. Our Oh Jung-hee has more.
South Korea's industrial output across all sectors rose by 1.2% on month in July after sliding for the previous 3 months in a row. Statistics Korea says the mining and manufacturing sectors saw a 1.9% boost compared to the month before, thanks to large rises seen in automobiles and electronic components, which rose by over 6% and 9% respectively.
Production of environmentally friendly cars and compact SUVs is continuously rising, and there is also a high demand for new models released this month. But I can't say it's a completely favorable trend, as this may be a relative rebound from the falls seen over the last 3 months.
With the expansion of the OLED market and increased demand for larger TVs, Korea's production of panel displays and LCD panels has also increased. Production in the service sector rose 0.6%, picking up slightly on month. Consumption also increased by 0.2%, marking the second straight month of increase. The average operation rate in the manufacturing sector, a measure that reflects how actively overall production took place, rose to 73.4% on year, largely attributed to automobiles and machine devices.
For the auto industry, the situation improved slightly in July compared to the previous month, when car component exports fell by over 60%. In the case of memory chips, supply is still limited, with only Korea and the US being the main producers. But demand is being fueled by the fourth industrial revolution, resulting in significant price gains.
The statistics agency says, though some figures like facilities investment did see slight drops, most of the indices recorded a rise for July, which reflects the generally improved industrial environment in Korea. Oh Jung-hee, Business Daily.
Korean firms doing business in China have taken a beating due to strained bilateral ties over the THAAD deployment. Lotte Mart has been one of the hardest hit, with its parent company being forced to step in and help out its struggling stores. Cha Sang-mi tells us more.
Korean retail giant Lotte Group says it is injecting an additional $300 million into its Lotte Mart stores in China, the largest overseas market for the firm, as it tries to revive its waning business there. Lotte Mart said on Thursday that Lotte Shopping Holdings, a subsidiary of Lotte Group based in Hong Kong, will procure the additional funds from Chinese financial institutions. This is the second time Lotte Group has poured extra funds into its Chinese stores after a $320 million boost in March this year. China's economic retaliation against deployment of the THAAD missile defense system on South Korean soil has led to 87 out of Lotte's 99 mainland stores being shut down by Chinese authorities over alleged fire safety violations. Chinese consumers have also jumped on the bandwagon, boycotting Lotte's products, resulting in an 80% drop in sales for the remaining 12 stores. This has resulted in record losses of around $445 million in the first half of the year, and were the retaliatory situation to continue till the end of the year, the losses could reach $900 million. Lotte Group's biggest worry is that they still need to pay their rental costs and retain at least 70% of their local employees' wages, despite the suspension of business, according to local laws. Cha Sang-mi, Business Daily.
China is stepping up efforts to attract more foreign investment. Although China still remains a major recipient of foreign direct investment, it has lost some its appeal amid rising costs and limited market access. The move comes as China faces a possible decline in foreign investment this year and uncertainties in its economic outlook. Take a look.
China has ordered its ministries to lift more restrictions on foreign investment amid accusations that Beijing is engaging in unfair trade practices and discrimination against overseas companies. The Chinese government said it will loosen restrictions on 12 industry sectors and plans to introduce a timetable to make sure the policy is properly implemented. Those sectors include new energy vehicles, ship design, aircraft maintenance, maritime transport, rail passenger transport, petrol stations, call centers, banking, insurance, and securities. For new energy vehicle manufacturers in China, foreign investors are currently not allowed to own corporate stakes larger than 50%, but these restrictions will be lifted. Beijing will also open up new investment opportunities, such as allowing overseas investors to run internet access services. The government will also take other measures, such as issuing more long-term, multiple entry visas lasting 5 to 10 years to boost foreign investment in China. China says by further liberalizing its markets, it can benefit the country in several ways, as overseas investors could bring in advanced technologies and management solutions, as well as encouraging local firms to reform as they face fiercer competition.
And to tell us more about this, Professor Kim Taewan from Ewha Women's University joins us in the studio today. Good to see you, Professor.
Pleasure to be here.
So, Professor, what do you think about China's move to encourage more foreign direct investment? What motivated Beijing to broaden foreign access to its markets?
For the last 25 years, foreign direct investment was the strongest engine of growth in Chinese economy. But along with slowing down Chinese economy, foreign direct investment is declining slowly these days. For example, for the first half of this year, foreign direct investment was decreased over 5% compared to that of the last year. And particularly from the most advanced countries like US, Japan, and Germany, investment has been decreased over 30%. So Chinese government decided to give more incentives on foreign direct investment this time.
Professor, so some experts say China's move comes amid increased criticism from the Trump administration about Beijing's alleged unfair trade practices. How do you assess this?
Related to that, we have two major events recently. The first is two governments had a comprehensive dialogue, economic dialogue, last month, July. But that ended without any concrete results because Chinese government avoided and delayed all important decisions like lifting the foreigners' ownerships on Chinese companies. And the second is U.S. government is about to begin its own investigation on Chinese corporations' violation on intellectual property. So that's going to be huge impacts on Chinese export to United States.
Right. Now, if we look at some of the restrictions being lifted, I think foreign investors would be much interested in China allowing foreign investors to hold more stakes larger than 50% on car manufacturers. Right. Is that right, Professor?
Yes. All major global automakers are producing automobiles in Chinese territory in the company form of a joint venture with Chinese business partners. But the foreign automakers, however, do not therefore exercise the full management power, and therefore they say they are having some inefficiencies in management, and therefore they are not making much profit, even though they are selling huge number of automobiles. Given that this time Chinese, in loosening their regulations on foreigners, Chinese government on purpose excluded the largest part of the auto market, like passenger autos and commercial trucks. So we have to take a look at more advancement of the Chinese regulation loosening in the future.
Not all the details have been provided about the loosened restrictions, but about this move, how do you think it will affect Korea's economy?
Well, broadly speaking, that of course affects the Korean economy in a positive way. But as we talked about, automakers like Hyundai Motor won't be much affected from these new regulations. But related, out of 12 more opening industries, like entertainment related companies and IT service industries, related companies and financial related companies will have more business opportunities in China.
Now, it seems China's move is mindful of China's current economic slowdown on top of its rising debt. And what are your thoughts on this, Professor?
Well, even though Chinese economy maintains very impressive economic growth over 6% level on an annual basis, we know that that has been dropped from 10% level 10 years ago. So that rapid economic growth in the past has been mostly propelled by increasing the debt of governments and public companies. But the fact is, the central government of China does not know exactly the size of the local government's debt. Some say it is only 30% of the total GDP of China, but some others say it is about over 300% of the total GDP. So that's going to be the largest concern in the Chinese economy. Also related to that, there is a huge bubble in Chinese real estate market. For example, Beijing and Shanghai's housing price has been increased over 30% in the last year. So related to the debt and housing bubble, there are quite a few more concerns in the future of Chinese economy.
Well, we'll have to keep a close eye on how China progresses with opening up its markets and reducing investment barriers. Thank you for your insight today, Professor.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to the 8-day marathon government policy briefings that are underway here in Korea, President Moon Jae-in was at the Sejong government complex where he was briefed by various government bodies, including the Education and Culture Ministries. Many agendas were on the table, including next year's Winter Olympics to be held in the Korea's alpine town of Pyeongchang. Lee Ji-won has more.
President Moon Jae-in's policy briefing on Wednesday started with the Ministries of Culture and Education, with the president emphasizing the significant roles that these two ministries have in the government.
국가의 국력을 군사력, 경제력과 같은 하드 파워와 지성, 문화예술적 역량과 같은 소프트 파워로 구분한다면 교육부와 문체부는 소프트 파워의 토대를 만들고 육성하는 핵심적인 부처입니다.
The main topic with the Ministry of Culture, Sports and Tourism was the preparation for the upcoming 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. Although there are only 5 months left until Korea holds its first Olympic Games in 30 years, the public's interest and enthusiasm have been quite low, according to the ministry. However, the ministry strives to show its determination to overcome such shortcomings in their meeting with the president.
We laid out our promotional activities to boost the Olympic spirit and get people interested and involved in the Games. Those would include promoting Games through big events in and outside of the country, including the Olympic Torch Relay and the UN General Assembly in September.
The Vice Minister of Culture also mentioned efforts to reduce inconveniences when visiting the Olympic venues, such as creating over 6,000 new accommodation facilities for visitors, establishing reasonable prices in restaurants and hotels, and extending operation hours of public transportations. Meanwhile, the Education Ministry outlined its efforts to provide equal education and nurture creative talent for the so-called Fourth Industrial Revolution by supporting public education over private ones and progressively shutting down autonomous private high schools and special-purpose schools. And to reduce the burden on the parents' wallets, President Moon asked the ministry to prepare policies on education welfare, such as reducing private tutoring fees. In Moon's meetings with the Agriculture and Maritime Affairs ministries, many timely topics, including the current food scare and the nation's ailing shipping industry, were discussed in detail to establish preventive measures and plans for the coming years. Lee Ji-won, Business Daily.
Small independent bookshops in Korea have gone out of business in recent years due to competition from large bookstores and online shopping malls. But now, young people in their 20s and 30s are showing greater interest in these neighborhood bookstores that have become a trendy spot to shop and hang out. So what is behind the turnaround in their fortunes? Take a look.
This street is one of the hottest spots in Seoul, particularly favored by those in their 20s and 30s. It appears to be a coffee shop that looks more like an art gallery or a store selling unique, colorful items. This is actually a bookstore that reflects the owner's analog tastes instead of simply having a pile of books of sale. Recently, independent bookstores have started drawing attention among young customers in Korea. Now, as trendy places to hang out, these local bookstores are often found in walking and tour routes around the city. Seoul City government selected 11 streets lined with small neighborhood bookstores to promote their unique aspects.
I found many small bookstores along the streets of Ewha Women's University. They have beautiful interiors, and it's especially fascinating to see them selling books in specific genres.
These latest trends have revived small bookstores, once considered a dying industry due to large bookstores and online shopping. In the past 20 years, the number of independent bookstores in Korea shrank almost 70%. But this year, an average of one new store is opening every week. Thanks to the new rise of local bookstores, publishers are also receiving a boost. Now, many large publishers are backing small bookstores by lining their shelves with bestsellers from authors like Haruki Murakami and Kim Taewan before they go on sale at large bookstores or online shopping malls. Special edition books are also being sold exclusively in independent bookstores. Not only that, renowned novelist Kim Young-ha recently made headlines by going on a tour around local bookstores.
These days, many people prefer to go to small independent bookstores to find their own favorite books. This is a great opportunity for publishers to collaborate with small bookstores on various projects.
This bookstore in Gyeonggi-do province is dominated by office workers in particular. The bookstore allows customers to kick back and enjoy alcoholic beverages like beer. Since the store is located in an area with many IT firms, books here have been catered to that demographic. The bookstore also displays comment cards that contain feedback from readers and the owner for a certain book they have read.
You have to make choice on your own at large bookstores, but here the comment cards help you understand other readers' opinions.
This bookstore has an appeal for office workers nearby or locals living in the area. I'm trying to create a space where anyone can visit without feeling burdened or intimidated by books.
Readers have an opportunity to meet their favorite authors in this bookstore. The response has been very positive from both readers and writers who are more willing to take part.
우리 사람들이 감정을 느낄 때마다 내 체온이 어떻게 바뀌나. 예를 들자면 내가 화가 나면 온도차가 이렇게 이만큼 뜨거워지는 거죠.
Since many people who are interested in my work come here, the level of focus and interaction is great. Holding talks in small bookstores allows more intimate communication with the readers, so it's more fun and motivating for me.
Small independent bookstore owners have limited space to store their books. This has resulted in more specialized and genre-focused books in many stores. In this small alleyway with the sound of music coming from the store, this bookstore specializes music. The store is packed with books about music history, novels, artists' own works, scores, records, and items all related to music. Chang Hae-jin used to work in the concert and performing arts industry. A year ago, she opened this bookstore. With a great passion for music and books, Chang wants people to read more books about music. Rather than simply selling books, Chang hopes her bookstore could become a space for the sharing of common interests.
Music contains so many meaningful stories. Rather than listening to the music, I love reading about the stories behind them, and I wanted my business to reflect that side of me, so I naturally decided to open a music bookstore.
Various culture events are also taking place here. The program ranges from mini concerts by professional musicians, music lessons to learn composition and lyric writing, to a forum hosted by the bookstore owner herself. The popularity of the side events are growing by the day.
I'm trying to encourage people to take interest in music by introducing a diverse range of music-related books. Also, there are plans to hold various events to promote music to the wider audience in the future.
Bookstores are transforming into a cultural space. If more independent bookstore owners explore their personal expertise to create a space for culture, sports, as well as a meeting place for the neighborhood, the future of the bookstore business could be bright.
With bookstores reintroducing people to print, more small bookstore businesses in Korea are looking toward a bright future by transforming themselves and carving out a clear niche in the market.
And that brings us to the end of our program, but we'll be back tomorrow with more of the day's top business stories, so don't forget to tune in then. Thank you for watching, and until then, goodbye.